Jackson Jobe.
Gary Carpenter hitting against lefties.
Oh.
He's going to.
Oh, hello, and welcome to our team profile and projection starting the top half of the league. And it's the Detroit Tigers at number 15. They were 23rd last year in your guys' TPP rankings. This year, they're 15th because they went to the dance and they even won a couple games. The DirecTV rewind for your Detroit Tigers. Make sure if you're ready to transform your baseball watching experience, head to directtv.com/JohnBoy or scan the QR code on the screen to learn more. They finished 86 and 76. Your Cy Young winner. Otherwise, it was pitching chaos. A really strong bullpen, a lot of youth. Their rotation numbers ended up being great. Their bullpen numbers ended up being great. 29th in on-base percentage. But they were 19th in runs, which was enough to get them to the dance, and they even took down the big bad Houston Astros. Trev, young team, big offseason, question mark? Who's new in the zoo?
I think we came up with on our offseason grades that we said this was a loss for the Tigers only because we thought maybe there was a chance Alex Bregman was going to go there, maybe a little bit bigger of a swing. But the guys they brought in, sure, they have helped their roster a ton. And you start with Jack Flaherty, who got on a 2-year, $35 million deal. This is a bargain for the Detroit Tigers, so you have to be happy. He found success last year in Detroit. The coaching staff and him have a great rapport. He liked everything about the city. So I think this was ultimately the place I wanted him to go. He ends up back here cheaper than I thought they'd get him for. So that's obviously a win in a rotation that needs starting pitchers, obviously. So that's nice for them. They bring in over your guy, Gleyber Torres, on a 1-year, $15 million deal. Put him at second base. I think that adds depth to the lineup. I like that move a lot for them. Alex Cobb, another guy they brought to help, beef up the rotation a little bit. He comes over on a 1-year, $15 million deal. No such thing as a bad 1-year deal. Tommy Kahnle comes in to help that bullpen out. They had a pretty good year last year. They were asked to do a ton towards the end of the year. He comes over as well as John Brebbia on a 1-year deal with the club option for 2026. So I liked what they brought in. There's also some minor league deals. Andrew Chafin is back with the Tigers on a minor league deal. Matt Gage, another reliever. Jahmai Jones, you might remember that name as an outfielder on a minor league deal. So they brought some pieces in, and maybe we were a little bit harsh on the offseason was a loss for them. I just think we expected a little bit more. I like the pieces for this roster. Who'd they lose, though, Jake?
Well, Trev, I think that adds to it because, and no shots fired, they traded Alex Fido, who was strong for them out of that bullpen. They got a catching prospect back for him. Mason Englert pitched a little bit for them, but, Ryan Vilade, who they didn't lose a lot, is what is the long and the short of it. That the parts in, man, Trev, I sneaky like their offseason. They added a high-end rotation guy. They added a back-end rotation guy. They added a back end of the bullpen, and they added the top of the lineup guy in Gleyber. So I should save more thoughts until I hear what your Detroit Tigers lineup looks like for 2025.
It's interesting. I think this is a team that has a decent ceiling, especially when we talk about the lineup. I think that a lot of things have to go right for them, but this is a team that, that's not going to be necessarily their calling card. But let's give it. Center field, Parker Meadows. Second base, Gleyber Torres. I think he's going to help out offensively there a little bit. Riley Green, potential breakout candidate. I read a stat that he was, of guys 25 years and older or younger, he had the 4th best OPS in the 800s last year. He's obviously a guy that could take that next step and be a huge part of why this team can be successful. Kerry Carpenter, as I alluded to in the open, he mashes righties. I mean, almost 1 dots against righties. The guy's a stud, doesn't play against lefties. Is there a world where he starts to play every single day, or are they happy with that? Is he happy with that?
Right.
Like, hey, my numbers look great. He wants more ABs. Maybe they'll give him a chance against lefties. Matt Vierling will be out there. Colt Keith at first base. Just Young at third base. Jake Rogers behind the plate. And then Trey Sweeney, Javi Baez. What's going to happen there at shortstop? I think that's people really like Trey Sweeney towards the end of the year there. I don't think you can necessarily 100% count out Javi Baez. They're paying him a lot of money,
Right.
and he's going to get some playing time, I'd assume. On the bench, we have Andy Ibanez, Zach McKinstry, some names to watch. Justin Henry Malloy is a guy that, I saw him hit last year. He's got some pop. Is he going to be in the first base mix at all? We'll see. Outfield DH, Wencio Perez, Spencer Torkelson. Like there's a bunch of guys they have. So is it like the best overall lineup that we're seeing? No, but I think there's some depth there and there's some pieces. And if a few, things fall in the right way, we could see. I will put this we could see it be a middle of the pack offense. I don't really see it being a top 10 offense, but I don't think they don't need that to happen for them to be successful.
Well, and that's because they have the Cy Young winner coming back. Tarek Skubal will lead that rotation with Jack Flaherty. So they'll kind of run it back. And those guys dealt a lot for Detroit before Jack got traded at the deadline. Reese Olson, Casey Mize, and then who's going to step up? Is it Jackson Job's time to shine? Matt Manning, Alex Cobb, he's got a little hip thing going on right now. Cater Montero, your guy, coming in at SP like 7 or 8 right now. So maybe the depth has changed in this rotation, and they still have a great bullpen. Jason Foley, probably the closer. Tyler Holton, here's a who, just throwing 90 innings casually. Bo Brisky, Tommy Kahnle, Will Vest, Andrew Chafin working for a spot, John Brebbia. Kenta Maeda's on this team, Trev, your famous flight buddy. And they've got some more options back there. Gunther, Hannafy, and Madden. So, Trev, I'll be honest with the people. When I opened this up to see the Detroit Tigers ahead of the Chicago Cubs, I was kind of like, I don't know. Like, the Cubbies put in work. We're kind of, if things go right for them, we're hoping, we're dreaming of, like, can the Cubs be a World Series contender? I guess Detroit did a little bit of that last year. There's just a lot of more names we're not familiar with. I think there's more potential question marks for the Tigers, and I think a lot of them are offensively. But they do have a lot of possible solutions that, for where they landed last year, if the offense can tick up, this whole team can tick up.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the what am I trying to say? The gist of it, I guess. Yeah, I mean, they didn't need offense to get to the playoffs last year. They needed timely hitting, and they needed, an insane run at the end of the year. Now, they have said that they're not going to do the pitching chaos thing again this year, but I have also said, why not? Maybe not throughout the entire year. You did bring in some bodies to help eat some innings, but if it comes down to it at the end of the year, and you're like, you know what? Let's just run out Scoobs, Flaherty, and Jackson Job, and then have 2 bullpen days. That will be less of a strain on your bullpen than it was last year, and it worked. And if like you have the personnel to do that, do that. There's some guys out there that can play some defense, especially in that outfield. I think that's going to be that's always going to be something that they look for in that spacious park that they play in. We got to play some outfield defense. We have to be able to run balls down. But yeah, I mean this team's going to go as far as the pitching staff takes it. We can see some uptick in offense, and that'd be a welcome sign. But I don't think that's kind of their team identity. But I think right now the goal is to get in the dance for them, like in any way possible. They showed that last year. All we gotta do is get in the dance, and we can make a run at this dang thing. And they've made improvements to their roster. So I'm actually having a really tough time kind of where I place this team. I don't think they're better than the Cubs, especially going to the season. I don't think that's accurate. But I don't think anybody had them running off what they did at the end of last year either, and they did it. So you have to take that into consideration. They have a formula. Talk about team identities all the time. Like, they kind of found one at the end of the year. Going into this year is going to be a little bit different, a little bit more of a target on their back. I don't think anyone's going to hit Scooble. I think he could repeat a Cy Young. I don't
Yeah.
think there's like that's the one thing they have. Like they have an ace, they have a stopper. Like he is going to be that guy. I'm sorry, good luck. You have a book on him, do all this doesn't matter. He's just one of those pitchers that's going to dominate. So I'm just having a tough time kind of placing them. I have a more of like, yes, sneaking at the wild card than I do even. I mean, they could win the division too, but I think those are all kind of the same. Like
Right.
you're either going to win the
Right.
division in the Central, or if you don't, like you're going to barely sneak in the wild card. That's kind of where I have them right now.
Trev, this might be our toughest team so far because I'm just gonna read these names: Parker Meadows, Colt Keith, Jace Young, and currently listed Trey Sweeney. Let's say those are the 4 guys that lock down those positions. Could 2 of those guys be 3 WAR players, 4 WAR players? Maybe. I don't know. They're young ball players. Like all of them have a little bit of a pedigree that yes, that could click. Could those guys struggle to hit? Absolutely. It's Major League Baseball. It's Comerica. Like you're not gonna get that bonus fly ball that sneaks out that might have you feeling good heading into the weekend. Trev, I feel like this is bad analysis, but I don't know where those guys are gonna land. Like it's a lot of youth.
I think it's fair to say. I mean, you just have to. I think you have to go mid-range with your projections for them. You know, like I don't think they're going to fall flat on their face. I also don't think they're going to carry a team. You know, obviously there are extreme scenarios where that happens, but as far as us projecting what's happening, that's what we're doing right now. You know, I just say middle of the road for those guys. I think, like again, offensively is not going to be the calling card here. Like what this team needs to do well offensively is move runners, you know, have really good at bats with runners in scoring position, you know, try to draw walks, get on base. Those are the things that the team like this has to do, and just find a way to manufacture runs. This isn't going to be a team that just slugs its way into the playoffs. Like they're going to have really good at bats. That's kind of like, you know, I don't love to give credit to AJ Hinch, but I feel like those are the teams that that's the kind of team he likes, or at least the message he likes to give his team is, let's grind it out. Let's have good at bats. Let's, you know, focus on areas that we are great at, which is, you know, our pitching, and go from there. So I think that's what we're going to see from them. And if you do that, then I think you can actually have your projections mellow out a little bit. Like we don't need these guys to go crazy. We need you to be professional major league hitters.
Well, and that's you know, the tones of these team profile and projections, and Tigers fans, you know your team better than us. Every fan base, you know your team better than us. That's one of our things. And it's kind of funny, like I still feel bad for Nats fans. I thought I was going to be excited for their team profile and projection, and when we looked at everything, we're like, oh, this actually isn't where I thought it would be. I guess Tigers, I'm a little more half glass full than I thought I would be, because Riley Green and Kerry Carpenter, I think I know kind of I'm going to get production out of those guys. I think Riley Green, let's see what the limits are on a full season for him. Can he be like a 7 WAR guy? Like what can he do over 162? Kerry Carpenter has raked now, and that's it. Glaber, dude, Glaber's going to give Tiger fans some headaches in the field and running the bases. Gleyber Torres can hit, and I think he needed to get away from the Yankees. I think he needed a change of pace. That him maybe splitting up those lefties, like that could be a sneaky, nice little 3 in the lineup that, okay, if Parker Meadows does click, or Colt Keith, who I saw one stat, I think his 3rd time seeing a starting pitcher, he had a 480 on base last year out of young Colt Keith, who he had one monster month last year that he's changing positions, which is scary to me a little bit, but you know, he got a full season in. Like, you just need 1 or 2 things to click, and these Tigers can be scary. Like, I always do, I like doing the weekend test. Okay, who we playing this weekend? All right, here comes Scooble, Flaherty, and Mize. And it's like, okay, Okay, I got last year's Cy Young. Jack's going to flip up a ton of breaking balls, and he's going to win a lot of at-bats. And then Mize or Job or Reese Olson, like, on any given day, those guys can give you 6 innings of a nice start. And I don't want to see anyone coming out of that bullpen. So I'm liking the recipe more than I thought.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, I think Reese Olson's a guy that we don't talk about probably enough in what he was able to accomplish last year. So it really, they're going into the season with a much stronger rotation, which in theory should save the bullpen for when they actually need them. And maybe they don't need to do we have 1.5 starters and the rest are openers and bullpen games. Maybe they won't need to do that at the end of the year. Obviously that is where the strength lies, and they added to the starting pitching rotation this year, which is great. I like the point you brought up about those guys. Like right now, if we're starting the infield with Jace Young, Trey Sweeney, and Colt Keith, none of those guys had no PS over 7 in the big leagues. And yeah, like, do we expect them? They're young players or prospects. We expect them to be guys, but man, like you kind of, especially for our show, you got to do it before we're like, yeah,
Right.
they're going to be guys. Like they haven't done it yet. And they're young, and can they do it? Sure, but I agree with you. I think that there's some question marks here. Like, do you just get rid of Javi Baez? Like, what are you going to do with him?
It's a great question because I don't know. And
And Spencer Torkelson, like, we've had just so much, like, I feel like he's actually had a decent sized leash. Like this hasn't been like a, hey, I know he's still young,
yeah.
but like he's had a run here and he really hasn't done it.
Trev, you normally look for that like 1,000 plate appearance mark because that's kind of like you've seen what major league pitchers are gonna do.
1,500 is like that's what they used to say. I would say it's probably expedited a little bit now.
And he's there. He's right under 15. But yeah, I mean, Torkelson still hit lefties last year, and I feel like he got called back up and he had a nice August that you can't write him off. But I guess the thing I'm starting to see, Trev, that I wonder if Hinch or the Tigers are thinking this way. They've got big platoon options, which I know Kerry Carpenter, like, we almost want to get him away from that because we just like when a guy's out there every day. But if you're getting mowed down by lefties, like, they've got a lot of lefties slotted to play every day. And then if you have Andy Ibanez, Javier Baez, your guy Dylan Dingler, if JHM gets the call or Torkelson, I think these Tigers are going to try to platoon teams, and by doing that, you're putting players in advantageous situations, and then from that, you can find out what you have a little bit. Like, hey, Trey Sweeney, man, don't worry about hitting any left-handed pitching. You're going to see some righties. Get ready for the mix. When it's a lefty, we're going to throw Javi out there. Like, I think for some of these young guys, maybe simplifying it like that, well, I guess we always talk about that can be a dream or that can be a nightmare. If you're one of the lefties and you're like, I'm having a bad time right now, and now we're seeing a bunch of lefties, that can be tough for a ball player.
Yeah, I mean, that's again, I also, bringing it back to AJ Hinch, that is another one of his calling cards. He wants to have platoon advantages. He wants to do that. So yeah, they have options, and they're going to have to play their cards perfectly. So yeah, I'm kind of struggling to find my, like, really, like, where do I put this team? I know I've said that already, but I really, let's just name out the things they do well. Bullpen.
Bullpen is great and can go with pretty much every bullpen in baseball.
Starting pitching has gotten better and has more depth, and you're led by the Cy Young winner. So let's just say pitching. Like, pitching is what they do well.
They pitch.
Outfield defense, they do pretty well. Like, I think they're pretty damn good. Like, Parker Meadows in center field is a stud. And Riley Green and Matt Vierling can go get it. Vierling's a tall, freaking lanky dude. Like, he covers some ground out there.
We haven't talked enough Matt Vierling yet.
We
That's
haven't
your
talked
guy.
enough Matt Vierling. Just a solid ball player.
Put me anywhere. I'm gonna hit a little bit. I'm gonna field a little bit.
Didn't he play some infield last year?
Yeah, he played some 3B. He popped down there.
So, like, let's just call, like, I think their outfield is a strength. Let's just call their outfield a strength.
Okay.
I'm in for that. It's the infield that I'm very curious about. It's the infield, and I mean offense overall, but I think that's going to be the biggest question mark. Can the young guys? What are they? What are they? And can you platoon teams enough to
Right.
get these young guys like feeling comfortable? I don't know.
I guess I don't know how many teams I'm going to look at that I can think if they have one thing really pop, and we can cover the board. Maybe it is Parker Meadows, who his big bro Austin came on the scene hot, and like I think Parker's a little more athletic, a little more rangy. Or is it Colt Keith, who we heard about, or Jace Young, or maybe it's Torkelson, man. Maybe he's 25 and the light bulb goes off. That like they just need one of those to happen. And I feel like the Tigers feel like a different team that I don't know. I'm currently viewing that as a very optimistic thing that I could also look down at June. And if this team is a bottom 3 hitting team, I'm not going to be shocked.
Yeah, I mean, it's what they were last year, and they made the playoffs.
Right.
What was their? I guess I got to pull
Am I
this
a
up.
weird
What was
looking
their?
guy? I'm getting thrown off by my look today.
Do you have a weird looking eye?
Weird looking guy. Something
I
about
actually
my
think
face
you look
is.
nice today. You know who
Yeah?
you look like right now?
What do I look like?
The guy from The Bear. He was also the chef.
Jeremy?
Yeah,
He's hot in the streets right now.
dude, your arms are fucking
Oh.
going, Pop.
Okay.
I'm into your look.
Let's go,
You know, I
Tigers.
always shoot you straight.
Let's go, Tigers.
I always shoot you straight. Last season, I just wanted to see what they were down the stretch because that was the run. In 2 months, they went 34-19 to end the year. 607 in August, 680 winning percentage in September. It's a lot. It's a lot to ask to do that again.
Yeah, I guess that's okay. That scares me a little bit because what were they sitting at before they got hot?
Going into August, they were 14 games back, and their record was 52-57. And then their record ended up 5 games under 500, and they ended up 10 games over at 86-76. That's a historic. I'm not a historic run, but pretty damn good.
55-63.
No, I don't expect them to kind of be there. I think their
know.
starting pitching is better than it was last year, but a lot of that was offensive based, and they really haven't changed that too much.
Hey, I have fun with this guy's name, but he deserves another shout out because if we really wanted to do underrated players around baseball, third on the Tigers in WAR last year.
Ooh,
Scooble, Green.
Give it to me.
Tyler Holton. 3.1 B-WAR. He threw 91 innings. Like
he would start back-to-back games, wouldn't he?
I think they did that in the playoffs to try to get through the lefties. That guy, I think if it was underrated bullpen guys, he might lead the list for 94.1 innings last year.
That's crazy.
That's a lot.
It's a thick old neck too.
That's half of a starter.
Oh, who was fourth in WAR? My guy, Matt Veerley.
Matty
Solid
V.
3-WAR season.
What else needs to be said about these Tigers before we get to the over-under?
You know what? I'm not a huge prospect guy. Do we have some people at the precipice? I know Job's the guy we always talk about. Obviously, Trey Sweeney's still probably considered a prospect.
I think this is it. I think all of these guys graduated and it's time that, pitching wise, they're looking for Job to step up. He's 22. Or like Casey Mize was a 1-1 and he's dealt with a lot of injuries that, if one of those guys could have a full year, I think that would be massive. But Trev, this is, my ploof. When you mention a guy, that means you see something. And when you see something, that usually means you saw something. Cater Montero, at 24 years old, he has minor league options and he can be a swingman for them. Matt Manning, who was a 9th overall pick in the drift. These are now depth pieces that I feel like the Tigers have been holding on for dear life, starting pitching wise for a while. That it feels like they have that now that, I don't know. There's a lot of opportunity here for Detroit, I am a little, there was rumors on them with Bregman, and I understand why. I almost wish Pete was more in on this. Like that felt like, but Pete wanted to go back to the Mets, and it's a different story. But I guess the other thing I'm starting to daydream about is like, if this team is in it and the trade deadline comes up, they're going to need a hitter. And I'm just interested to see what's going to be out there for them, or what are they willing to move on from.
I would love to see them be in that position. For all my Tigers fans, like Cater, like he just needs to locate better people.
Right.
Like it was too much middle of the zone for me. Like, but I saw flashes of like, okay, like if this guy is on the peripherals, like we can see something here. So that's where I'm at on my guy. I think we're ready.
Let's get to the DraftKings over under for the Detroit Tigers. Excited for this one, and I'll actually admit this now. A little excited with where the NBA season is at. Did I watch a little bit of LA versus Dallas last night to see the return of the King? I did. That was fun. And if you get in on the action, new customers at DraftKings, $5 will get you $150 in bonus bets instantly when you use code Talkin. Monster slams, dishing the rock, cleaning the glass. DraftKings is the home of NBA player props. Bet on whatever you want. They got it. So download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. New customers use code Talkin. Bet just $5 on any wager and get $150 in bonus bets instantly. That's code Talkin only at the DraftKings Sportsbook. The crown is yours. Where we at, Coach?
It's another good line, Pop. DraftKings doing their things. The over-under win total by them is 83.5. Last year, 86 and 76. So they're expecting a little bit of regression.
Right. This team was bad. This team was bad for 4 months and great for 2.
I'm having kind of a tough time with this one, as I've mentioned a couple times already on this podcast, on the show. But I think I have my answer.
I'm here. I'm good.
86 wins, and they got better.
Right?
In 3, 2, 1.
Over.
Under. Okay. I'm glad you picked over.
Over.
I don't feel super confident in my under, but I think if it needs a lot needs to go right for them to be at that 86 mark again, and not so much needs to go wrong for them to be right at 500 or tick below 500. That's kind of where my head's at.
Yeah, I guess with a lot of TPPs or a lot of seasons, health and where are your best players at, and the young guys. The young guys stuff we've talked about. Like, let's see, they've got more than a lot of other teams that can go either direction. Health could ruin this team's season. Like, I'll knock on all sorts of wood, but when you've got 3 guys you rely on, 1 in the rotation, 2 in the lineup, if something happens with those guys, things get really tough for Detroit. So that's the fear factor, but I like those guys, and it is tough for me to have them feel the postseason juice, have all these young guys. They had a nice offseason. I want to believe in that. I'm debating locking it.
I love it. This is your lock?
I'm debating locking it.
Oh my god!
I don't think I can.
We are not on the same page this year. I think a ceiling for them is that 86 mark. I'll give them even 87. I'll give them a 1-game improvement over last year. I think that is the tops for them. Yeah. But I also think the floor is more like 76.
So you don't think they
possibly more.
You don't think they can win the Central?
I do think they can win the Central. I think 87 games wins the Central. They have the potential. I don't think it's likely they win the Central.
I'd like to think you need 90 or so to win the Central. The Guardians did with 92 last year. I think they can be. I'm not saying I fully believe in it. I guess I believe in them more than I do believe in it failing. Okay. Like I feel like a next step is coming. I'm glad that you went over.
They deserve that.
Good. Don't be nasty, Jack. Tigers fans, every fan, let us know what we got wrong. Tigers fans probably just not happy we didn't mention Jake Rogers more because they like him. Nice mustache. How could you not want that from your catcher? But your guy, Dylan Dingler, sneaking up on him. Hello. Let us know. We will be back with your 14th ranked team coming up